communities can use that to advocate. Once, if they're arrested and in threat of being deported, they can make an argument about having a children that has special needs, and that's usually taken into account by the immigration judge. There is many community organizations that provide legal assistance, and that's what those organizations actually do. They know the rights that different people with different needs have, and they're able to support those families. So as mental health professionals, it's important to get to know those organizations, and there are many. So, you know, talking to one of us here or looking it up online, there is organizations that provide that kind of support, and many of those organizations provide it at no cost. And what I would say, it's important to be prepared, again, because we don't know. So knowing, you know, there is this organization that does this, can the parents call ahead to figure out how can they prepare in the event, you know, they face a deportation?
Very close from here, there is a group called Access Living. I don't know if you ever heard of it. They actually are an organization that specializes on providing support, but also doing policy advocacy for people living with disabilities. And they also have a Latino project called Buscando Vidas. And they actually struggle, Cambiando Vidas, I'm sorry. They actually struggle a lot, you know, because of the same issues that I was mentioning earlier. I mean, it is very hard to tell people enduring these circumstances that there is hardly anything that can be done right away, because they want, you know, a solution today. I mean, we have another member organization, because actually Cambiando Vidas, I'm sorry, it's a member project to Alianza Americas. We also have another project in the Houston area, Living Access Wheelchair Association. It's all mostly people who used to be actually very able individuals. They are undocumented, Mexicans for the most part, and they suffer accidents that resulted in their becoming disabled. And there is nothing for them, you know, especially in Texas. I mean, as you probably know, Texas is very unconcerned, I mean, with these kinds of issues. And so they have actually organized themselves and gone to hospitals and gone to churches, and they manage to provide a degree of support to the people that are part of their association living in these circumstances. So I guess in the end, my advice is encourage people to come together, encourage people to become organized, and don't expect anybody to speak for them, but to make it themselves, you know, speak for them and by themselves, because I think that's the only way we are going to eventually begin to move forward in really building communities that do care, you know, about living and living well.
Hi, I have a question. So I've been covering immigration here in Chicago for the past couple of weeks, and one of the narratives I constantly hear is that people are frustrated with the actual process of immigration. That's very outdated and very unrealistic. And coming into a new year with a new president, and with the House and the Senate being controlled by the Republican Party, how do you think people can kind of spew that idea that the process needs to change in order to, with our society, to make our society better?
Yeah. I mean, there is no question about the fact that the system we now have in place is deeply obsolete. I mean, the essential architecture of the immigration policy we have now in place dates back from 1965. You know, the essential architecture is the same that was put in place in 1965, and it's only being made worse, frankly, over the years, especially because in 1996, a lot of the things that people had to do just to try to find a way around the cumbersomeness of the system were declared illegal and grounds for deportation. You know, and so that law that was passed in September of 1996, sadly signed by a Democratic president, Bill Clinton, has only again made it a lot worse, you know, for people who are here undocumented, but frankly immigrants in general. And so I think that what we need to be able to differentiate is the urgency to actually make that system better, but separate that conversation from what, frankly, white supremacist organizations would like us to believe that the problem is. You know, because they basically would like us to think that the problem is the actual presence of these individuals who are here breaking our laws. I mean, these people are here, and by and large, they, as I said before, have actually produced very positive results for our country, for their families back in their countries of origin, etc., etc., etc. So there is a very sad, very toxic combination of racist and xenophobic prejudice with a real problem. You know, because the real problem is indeed that we have an obsolete, many years ago we should have changed it, but we didn't. And frankly, who is to blame for that is not people who are here, you know, without status. Who's to blame for the fact that we have such a horrible, outdated law are our policymakers. They are the people we pay to supposedly keep the laws in a way that is truly beneficial to society, but they don't do their job. And we hardly ever blame them. On the other hand, I mean, you may also recall, oftentimes people blame people without visas for being in this country illegally. Whoever speaks about the employers that employ them. You know, the employers are just lawbreakers as anybody else, but we never hear about that. But again, I mean, I'm not trying to just say that we should go blaming around. We should fix the problem. And this is a conversation that, again, is going to be probably harder to be had under a Trump administration, but the problem is not going to go away. It will continue to be with us, and we better become much more creative and assertive in terms of how to provide solutions that, again, do not end up advancing what I would describe generally as a xenophobic, racist, you know, white supremacy-driven agenda.
Just a quick comment to what Oscar just said. And again, you know, to back up, to kind of follow up on your comment, Oscar, I think you and I spoke about this a while ago when I was sharing with you the last night came here with a green card through the visa lottery. And a whole lot of people have no clue that there are a number, a slew of countries that are actually denied that simple request, right? Lance and I were fortunate enough to do that through college, and certainly feel very privileged for that. Yeah. But it brings me to my kind of other comment that while it might not be that everybody that, you know, chose the way we are today and the vote, you know, the way it is today might not be xenophobic, racist, you know, name it, I do think all of us, all of the people do have to take a closer look at, am I, like Dr. Chavez was saying, am I going to be associated with a presidency and with the leadership that's going to be going with those values as opposed to the other core values that one would hope would resurface back in the United States, right? So it just pains me because I know some of the decisions were maybe poor because of lack of knowledge, but it doesn't make it less less hurtful, right? In a way, because people are not doing their homework, because people are not taking their voting rights so seriously, right? And again, I know I speak as an immigrant and as a therapist and everything in between, but it does upset me. And like Dr. was saying earlier, it does, you know, bring up the issue of, so what are we doing? Are we taking our responsibilities seriously, or are we just kind of saying, oh, I think I'm going to cross this mark, right? There's a lot at stake, and that pains me. As a mom, even more so now, I can't even, when you pull that picture up with the wall between the mom and the daughter, my 2.5-year-old daughter was having a hard time this morning when I left her for daycare, knowing full well I will pick her up this afternoon. So I cannot even, like literally, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about the idea that there are several kids that do not know when they're going to, and might not be in a situation when they're not going to know when they're going to see their parents next and vice versa. So that resonates with me again as a human, as a professional, as an immigrant, anything in between, and I think that's the core what we have to get back to. We cannot allow ourselves, as a society, to continue to perpetuate those situations.
Yeah. Agree.
I want to say something. I don't need a microphone. I work for the Chicago Department of Public Health. I'm a mental health provider, and we don't ask for documentation and the services are free for Latinos. I don't know that everybody knows this, but there's 6 mental health centers still available and open. So I welcome people to refer to us. I work with the Lawndale Mental Health Center, very close to Pilsen. And I'm thinking of starting a group, a support group for the parents of these children. So, okay, thank you.
Okay.
No, Mayra, I would like to make a comment. And I think I was like, reflecting on the questions and the opportunity that we have right now to, it is not working.
No, it's not working. It's going in and out. There you go.
I said, like, the opportunity that we have right now to work together. I mean, as a community organizer background that I have, is always like, what we can do next. And I think we have this opportunity between, and using my 2 hats as also an immigrant myself and working for so many years with immigrant-led organizations, also being part of Alianza Americas, and with my other hat working with the interfaith communities with CRLN, and mental health providers to have this. Like going back into the need of building that trustness with immigrants. Because yeah, it's hard for immigrants to share our stories. Especially, I mean, when being undocumented and having those harsh stories that we have in our families. But like, I've been working with groups, with immigrants, and in the spaces when they share their stories with, I'm being in those, facilitating those processes. But having the help and having the support of mental health providers, it would be a huge plus for the work that we do. In the churches as well. I mean, people and immigrants, when they feel the fear, one of the few places that they're gonna go is the church. Because they trust and they feel that connection with. So it's so important. Or when they talk with another immigrants too, because you're thinking they might have the same story as my story. And it's so easy to share those stories among those spaces. So, I mean, I invite everyone to, continue having those conversations in what ways we can partner together, in what ways we can work together to at least provide some kind of a solutions to our communities that are facing that fear, the hopeless, and stuff like that.
If I can just add 2 things. One, we have been since 2009 working, developing an initiative that we call Somos, in Spanish, or We Are, in English. And it's essentially an initiative designed to do 2 things. One is to provide safe spaces for communities to talk and discover that they should not feel guilty at all, for the situation they are in. They should feel proud of themselves because of all the good that they do. So it's an opportunity for people to be affirmed, for all the goodness, that they've done to themselves, to their children, to their countries of origins, to society, etc. But the second thing is to also learn, how can we talk about racism? How can we talk about xenophobia among ourselves and also between us and other groups? Because as a good friend of mine reminded us not long ago in an event that both Claudia and I were in Washington, sometimes Latinos don't speak up. When, for example, Arabs, Muslims are being trashed. And the same is true for Arabs and Muslims. They don't necessarily speak up, when Mexicans are being trashed. And so there is a lot of work that we need to do in that area of combating essentially racism. We have also been developing in the last 2.5 weeks, basically a 5-point work plan, to work with communities across the nation. One of the points in that 5-point plan has to do with enticing people to be more willing to say that they disagree, with what's being proposed from the transition team, in Trump transition team. One of the projects specifically that we are working on, and we are happy that here in Chicago, in Illinois, there is a good amount of voices, being raised essentially. But we've been working with a group that is hoping to do one thing that I believe would be fantastic if it could happen, and it is to declare the state of California, from the governor down, as a sanctuary state, for undocumented immigrants in the country. As you probably know, California is the state with the largest number of immigrant population and the largest number of undocumented population as well. So it would be fantastic, and it will be also like a sweet revenge, because if you don't know, it was actually in California that this anti-Mexican wave that we are still in began. And it began in the early 1990s, and it began precisely with the mixing of anti-Mexican sentiments and a re-election campaign. The then Governor Pete Wilson got re-elected on the backs of attacking Mexicans. And again, it would be bittersweet for many of us to see California go full-blown, the other direction. And I'm sure that would have a repercussion effect in other places as well.
We have Dr. Adames, who has also a comment, and then we're going to have to wrap this up the conversation.
Thank you so much to the presenters for an excellent hour-and-a-half presentation. But as I sit here and listen to our collective dialogue, I just wanted to reflect that, I heard a couple of times, and also in other spaces where we're talking about the same thing, I keep hearing the idea of, oh, they're not racist. And I think that's a distractor. I think it really takes us away from the focus and assessing or trying to find out whether people who voted for a certain group is racist or not. We don't know what their intentions are, and I don't think that's as helpful for us who are trying to do something. But I think it's important for us to keep the focus that the impact of what they did is a racist one. And I think that needs to be something that we don't forget, because then I'm thinking when we're always talking about, well, they're not racist, what agenda are we communicating implicitly when we say that, if that makes any sense at all. So I think it's important for us to get comfortable saying, yeah, some of them are racist. I don't know who they are, and some of them are not racist.
Sure.
And that's okay, they're not racist. But the impact of what they did is a racist one, and people are hurting. So I think it's important for us to I love dissecting, to dissect that in order to help us stay grounded in what's important.
Can I respond? Yeah. I feel alluded, because I was the one who made that comment. No, but I love to take the opportunity. Let me be very crystal clear. I do not believe that we have 62, 63 million of deliberate, conscious white supremacists in the US. I don't. Now, do I believe that we live in a society where the playing field is level? No way. It's never been level. From the moment this country was founded, it hasn't been level. And it continues to be absolutely not a level playing field, for everybody. White supremacy, white privilege exists. It is embedded in everything, that we do. I've been fighting against it since the day I came to this country. And again, I deeply believe it in my bones, that we absolutely must tackle, that challenge. But all I'm saying is, we sometimes have the tendency to oversimplify things. And I don't doubt, that the election of Donald Trump has absolutely empowered, forces that are, I don't want to use the word dark, but just evil. Not even evil, because evil means that I don't really believe in God, just to make it clear. But the bottom line is there are forces that don't mean at all the well-being of the majority of people. And in that respect, I completely agree with you. I think that the people who voted for Trump, consciously or not, help advance a given agenda. But the point I was making essentially is, I don't believe that we should be over-worried about having, again, 62+ million white supremacist activists in the country. Because I think that that's a different characterization. So I don't think that you and I are disagreeing in the list. That's basically all I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm not. I wasn't targeting or signaling everyone, but I think it's less about whether people are or not, but it's the impact. And the impact is structural, right? And right now, you know, I'm gonna come out, I think we are being led by racist folks with a racist ideology that's gonna impact everybody. So I think it's important to take it away from the individual and think about how it's
Sure.
structured.
I think the individual behavior though was racist. Because when I can look at the pain of others and how their lives may be significantly diminished by a behavior that I can carry out, and I choose to still do that despite what I know about this person, my behavior is a racist behavior regardless of what my ideologies are. Because I think it takes a person with privilege to be able to say, well, you know, he hates Mexicans, he's willing to put Muslims into a registry, but let me look at this other side. The ability to be able to do that means a person has a level of privilege, and that's what racism is about. The ability to control and create a reality that supports your agenda.
Can I draw just a brief parallel in terms of kids and how we teach kids good and bad behavior, good and bad choices, right? When we tell our little ones, okay, you're not bad, you just made a bad choice, meaning you need to take responsibility for your behavior and do something instead. What you just said just made me think of that. So you're right, there's action that needs to happen.
Sure.
And accountability.
Okay, so I think this is a conversation definitely, you know, that we can continue. We can stay here all afternoon, probably all night, and we'll still have something else to talk about it. But we have to close it. Well, all I can say right now is you sitting here are really lucky to have the opportunity to have this discussion, to listen to what, you know, our three panelists have to, you know, contribute. And that if you know, I kept listening to a call to action here. You have three different, you have advocacy, you have, you know, a way to be involved with the community or religious community. You have the responsibility of the mental health as mental health providers here. So find the way to get involved. Find the way to resist. Find a way to fight back. So I'm hoping that the panelists will stay a couple of minutes around. If you wanted to get in touch with them, I can definitely, up on the 10th floor of the Center for Latino Mental Health, can put you in contact with them. We also, at the Center for Latino Mental Health, have been, you know, organizing the students to go into communities and be of support and provide community presentations. So there is ways for you to get involved. So that is no excuse. So I thank you very much. I thank you, our three panelists, for this excellent dialogue. And for all of you, let's cover the rest of our wonderful afternoon. Thank you for attending.
Thank you.
And thank you to Christina for the technical assistance, and to my students too. Great, thank you.